In this jungle guide, I want to go over 5 crucial tips that junglers in low elo are having when trying to leave the depths of elo hell and get to gold. Now, when making these videos, I want to come up with tips and find tips that really will help you beyond gold as well, and as such, I will have crucial mistakes that you can fix, crucial bad habits that you can fix, but also with a good example of how this will work that you can keep on climbing once you get to gold, should you want to. And as always, I'm not in a hot tub thinking of cool ideas to clickbait you. I've taken all of these tips from my recent coaching so that they're really relevant for you, and of course, things that you could use to reach your end of season dreams and escape low elo for eternity. As always, these coaching VODs will be directly and fully available upon my Patreon, as well as having coaching signups there. Don't forget, the bootcamp is coming up very soon, starting August 22nd. Topics on your screen now. I will link the pre-roll at the end of the video, so if you want more details, you can have a look there, but please do sign up through the link in the description below. And now, without further hesitation, let's begin. Right, this first tip is going to be a bit of a quick one because I want to use it as a foundation for the rest of the video. And the first thing is that we covered with the cascade jungle rule is that you always want to force the enemy jungler to trail you. You want to always try to find a way to have tempo control. That means if you need a reverse clear, if you need to cut your clear short, if you're just looking to have better clear technique to get onto the map faster, something I've always talked about, then do so. Now, I'm not going to reiterate all the, hey, you guys need to practice your clears. I mean, you do. You need to go to practice tool, you need to copy the best, and you need to go to Phalaris' channel, and you need to optimize it. But I don't want to focus on it for this video. I want you to understand that that clear and what clears you do will lead to the cascade, because you want the enemy junglers in low elo to always trail you, because it leads to our main and second point, the use of dead time. When you have dead time, and most low elo junglers have dead time, this is what causes you to lose. And very typically, it will affect you way more if you're playing a ganking or more proactive jungler. That's why I love the Flexi clear where you go Red Raptor's Gromp, as it allows you to say, right, can I gank bot lane? Can I then fall back to Crab into my blue side? Or can I just go Crab into ganking mid lane perhaps? Maybe I cannot gank bot lane and now the enemy jungler started top side sequence down and I'm gonna run into him. I have no prior, I don't win 1v1. I'm just gonna do my blue, do my wolves, and then sequence to the top Crab and gank top side. These are the wonderful things that you can get from thinking deeply about what clears you do, reverse clearing, and obviously understanding that you still want the enemy jungler to trail you, even if you don't have that 1v1 win potential or the lane prior for the play you wanted to make. In turn, a great example is this Balveth coaching I had where basically he's gold, and he reached gold, so all of you are striving to match this, and his early game was one of the best I've ever seen from a gold player. Really pristine game plan, really copy paste, he can do it every single game, uses a 5 camp just to get the double Crab prior, to gank mid lane, to look at the bottom lane, buys himself enough time that he can transition to either counter jungling if the enemy jungler's bad, or falling back to his Gromp and into his wolves. So this was good, yes? But if you're a low elo jungler, more than likely you are like this Vi. You decide, okay, look, I want to 4 camp, but maybe you don't necessarily 4 camp in the right direction. But you know the enemy jungler is a 4 clearer. But in low elo, their 4 clears are not optimized. That's why the first point about optimizing those clears is very important. Which means if you can 4 camp or 3 camp as a Vi, a Warwick, even a Viego Shinshao, you can look for those invades and ganks before they even finish with their clears. At the very worst though, you're looking to 4 camp, look for top lane, oh no, he warded, he moved on down, there's a cannon wave, level 3 to level 2, I cannot gank that. Therefore, I can just make sure I smite and snack that top Crab, force the enemy jungler who's slow at clearing to trail me. I can go mid lane and gank that opportunistically. This will then give me the ability to shove that out, create prio, and take the bottom scuttle as well. And because the enemy jungler is now in a bit of a, well, what do I do? That's what we want. You can then go ahead and look for the bottom lane dive. You can ward his bottom lane Krugs. If he shows top lane for whatever reason, you know that because he did a full clear, and again, you'd know this if he shows top lane on that ward, you know, with 24 CIs, because he didn't get the Crab. If he did get the Crab, that would be 28, by the way. We know that those Krugs gonna be spawning around that 4-minute 23-ish mark. I like to say 4:15 to 4:23, 24 is your kind of range for the second spawn of a camp after their first buff, and you could just go ahead and perhaps counter jungle that. But as you can see with our Vi, we didn't do any of that. We lost the top Crab because we were worried too much about mid lane. We waffled after the red towards the Krugs instead of just being decisive. We then didn't notice the enemy jungler ganking in the mid lane. We wasted time in the bottom scuttle instead of just smiting it and looking bot lane. And then we fall back to the Gromp way too early, and now it's about to spawn in 10 seconds, but because we don't want to wait, because we feel like, hey, we need to be doing something, we move on up to the Raptors. This compromises every aspect of sequencing the first, second rotation of the early game. It compromises your experience gain. It lets the enemy jungler get away with everything. You're not able to take everything that you needed from the map. And basically in your first rotation, you're full of dead time. Suboptimal pathing with waffling indecision, and not really achieving anything at all. This happens in exactly the same situation with this Viego against a Warwick. Way too much respect is given to the Warwick, waffling around looking for counter jungling, moving back and forward because we just respect them too much. We respect the fact that we think they're going to clear like a challenger jungler, but they never do in this elo. So if you can focus on your own clears, what you're going to do, and your matchups, and make sure you are never filling the space with dead time, you'll have so many advantages that you can use. And I'm going to give you a prime example of dead time to show you exactly how to exploit it and of course how to not do it. But first we need to go to the third tip, which is when you lack information, you give too much respect, but then you can also give too little respect, and this plus dead time will equal you getting Flame Horizoned. So let's combine all of this into a little bit of an example to show you what a good jungler can do against a jungler who's having all of these bad habits, and it causes him to get Flame Horizoned and of course to lose the game. So initially, I'm playing some Zyra, I'm doing a standard 5 camper, I have a control ward early. The enemy Kayn, it's a Kayn obviously, he's going to do Raptors, Red Krugs, perhaps look top lane, or he's going to get leashed from the Red Krugs Raptors and go to the bottom side. His advantage over me is that he can clear significantly faster, impact the map and counter jungle me with that prio, but they never do this. Instead, he tries to float on up and I get cheesed. That's right, it does happen to me as well, and I was not expecting a Kayn to 3-camp red side and waste so much time, dead time, just waiting. And I could have just been taking his jungle. What if I deep warded and was just taking his blue side and he's going to wait there 18 years and then ruin his entire game plan? But he smites this away and you think, that's a good example, right? That's a good thing that he did. No, because the laners were rotating, you can hit the plant, push him off with that scuttle, you know where he's going, you still get the top scuttle, and now because you know he started on the Raptors, no leash, you could just counter jungle those, then counter jungle his tier 2 Krugs, and of course gank top lane, but it is a Camille. That's a tough one. And then you're opening up your bottom lane to his presence and potentially losing your second Raptors, your Krugs. Is not really a worthy trade. So what you do is you just cut straight across mid lane, you hit the plant to make sure, alright, that bottom crab is gone, he's fallen back to his blue side, he thinks he's so smart, but then you just go ahead and gank the bottom lane. You get 2 assists, you save your bottom lane, you force all the subs, the Kayn shows up, but now he is trailing. The cheese has cost him, and even though you might feel like, well, okay, look, I got invaded, I got cheesed, I'm behind on tempo, just look for the 2 alternatives that you will have in terms of what you can do to get ahead of him again. And now because we've done that, he is forced to basically retreat. You can now do a second full sequence. You do tier 1 Krugs, you do all the Raptors, Wolves, Grump. If he shows up top lane and gets that gank off without basing, nothing you can do. That's expected if he's going to do the same thing as you, and now you can reset. And now you might think, hey, the Kayn's doing a solid job. He's at least exploiting his advantage in terms of control, and he's forcing the off-meta and weaker jungler, it doesn't matter who it is, to basically play a lot more safe. And you would be right, but because there was too little respect in the early phase, and now there's too much respect, and of course we're going to add in this dead time and lack of information from his part, what he's going to do is stay out after the gank. He's going to do his second red. He's going to look for another gank. He's going to try and invade a counter jungle. Who the hell knows why? If the Zyra stayed out in full sequence, it's gone. If the Zyra went back to base after bot lane and sequence down, it's gone. There's no reason to even move in this direction. Now, as a jungler in this situation, the goal is to try and get that RNG crab on the bottom side using the outside in rule before the Kayn is going to show up again, assuming he resets and you are going to meet. The thing is though, you see the Pantheon's very low and going back to base. Your bot lane has a good bit of pressure. Now, I don't care what elo you are, if you see this, don't cancel the back of the Pantheon. Let him detach, wait for the enemy ADC to show up again, and now we can commit a 3v1 dive. And even in low elo, I think most of you can do this. It's a 3v1 dive, you just force her back towards the tower, you force the cleanse, you hit your CC nicely. We do get a little bit lucky because the Nami doesn't tank any tower shots, but we are able to take the wave, get the kill, and now retreat because we assume the Kayn is going to reset after all of that top lane stuff, and then come to the bottom side for his blue, his grump, his wolves, and basically what you can do is just say, okay, I'm gonna do my full red quadrant now, and I can look back, or if I see Kayn on the top side, I'm just gonna protect my blue side, and I think that's a good play as well. Because then, of course, you can do the Herald if he shows bot lane, or you can reset and then do a similar play on the bot side into the dragon. What happens is the Kayn has filled so much dead time with this waiting around, with this lack of tracking, not processing information. He did not press tab to track the Zyra CS, I can guarantee it, because he goes top lane again. And now the Zyra can rotate, get a cleanup kill at the very least, force the ult out of the Kayn and go back to base. And now, what are we gonna do? Go back to the bottom side, assume the Kayn should be doing exactly the same thing, but because he showed too much respect now and didn't have the information, he goes back to the top side assuming his bot side's gone, when it isn't. And of course now, he is gonna get the kill, yes he's gonna get the Herald, but there's nothing to counter jungle, there's only 2 camps for him to farm, and the Zyra's team will be able to get the dragon, and of course counter jungle his blue and grump as well. And then of course when he's obviously gonna use that Herald top side, you go ahead, and you take the first tower anyway. So it's rather a travesty in the sense that you saw the CS and it was kind of close. Now he's down 4 camps, 18 CS. He's down on objective in terms of the dragon. Yeah, he got the Herald, but he still didn't get the first tower. And you really must try to not be like this Kayn, try not to be like this Vi, try to be like the Bel'Veth, like the Zyra, always looking to fill your time with something, even if it's just taking a camp here, counter jungling a bit there, looking for a nice proactive play that you can make on a dive or just some counter jungling, because even when you get cheesed, even when things don't go well, as long as you have that experience lead, that gold lead, that CS lead, and you're at least going equal in objectives or ahead in objectives, you have power that you don't understand. And we're going to revisit this example in the 5th tip, but for now the 4th tip very quickly. Sometimes Kayn's obsession with top lane came at a cost. It cost him a lot because it filled with dead time, suboptimal plays, the wrong lane to camp, and he didn't get the advantages he thought he should have. Likewise, obsession without context in any situation is really bad and something that really can harm low elo junglers. For example, that Vi, same thing, kind of this obsession with maybe looking for the gank, looking for the high risk play, looking for a bit of counter jungling. When the enemy jungles bot lane for about 10 minutes, that's a free Herald. That's free quadro control, counter jungling both camps and a Herald. But because we don't take all the information in, we're gonna struggle to know what to do. And that's why pressing tab, clicking around, using F keys is so crucial, and also being able to process it, which is why I'm making this video. But it was very much the same for this Warwick who just kept counter jungling this Grump. Look at the map. Enemy junglers on the bottom side, enemy junglers nowhere near. We can take the whole Herald. We don't need to just take his Grump. And by taking the Grump and then being out of position, we're gonna give up that Herald. We're gonna give up other pressure. If you're someone that loves to go and do Heralds at 8 minutes, great. But don't obsess over it to the point that you're doing suboptimal Heralds and dying. If you're someone who loves to counter jungle Grump, that's great. But please don't run across the map just to take the Grump when there's other things you could take. There's bigger things. So be adaptive in that sense and notice if you're being someone who's obsessive with a particular strategy because it won't always work out. And finally, if you do happen to have someone who has an obsession without context or meaning against you like this Kayn was, then you can go ahead and make sure if you're not making those mistakes, those first 3 mistakes, and you were coming out ahead in those situations, you have the tempo control, you have now the level lead, 2-3 level leads, you can flame horizon the enemy jungler. All you want with that is the reality stone of threat and pressure. You want the confidence to make plays. This might sound like a bit of a generic tip, but it's not, because if you always find yourself in a position where you don't have the confidence to go in, to take on 2v1, 3v1 fights, to basically force issues that you need to do in order to close the game, like pushing into the jungle, fighting over dragons, you very clearly have all the bad habits in this video and you are not the one to get out ahead. That's obviously why we have coaching, but that's why I like to make these videos, just to give you some highlights you can focus on. And you're seeing the highlights from the Zyra game. Because of the lead that the Zyra had, you can just push off the enemy jungler away from you. But this is the same no matter what jungler you play. Please understand this. If you're a fed Hecarim, a fed Udyr, a fed Volibear, a fed Kayn, Graves, Kindred, it doesn't matter. If you are ahead, you can push them away from the dragon, secure it. If you are ahead and there's a huge fight that needs to happen and you're actually down on gold, then you can win it. You can control it because you are the one controlling reality and being the Thanos or Darkseid if you prefer DC. If they pick a fight and you are fed, you can win it. Obviously, you have to play correctly, but if you're not doing these things and you find yourself behind someone like the top laner or the enemy ADC and you're always running away from fights, then you're coin flipping. You're just letting the enemy team play the game while you go, whoa, I don't actually want to do that. You're kind of scary. No, you want to be the scary one, all right? So we focus on all of these early game fixes, these habit fixes. Make sure you are getting as strong as possible so that when it comes to Baron fights, Dragon fights, getting into their jungle to close the game, you do so because you have confidence, and the confidence to make plays plus the lead that you have will make enemy junglers in low elo cower, be afraid, run away, mess up, get picked off. And that, my friends, is when you win games. I know this was a lot of information very quickly, and I know it's a bit more advanced than your typical low elo videos, but I believe in you. I believe you guys understand this stuff and you can apply it to your game. It's stuff I give away in coaching and people use to get gold. People use these principles to go to diamond even. So if you want to understand a bit more about that cascade rule I mentioned, click the video in the box in the top right. And if you understand a little bit more about that reality stone, threat and pressure, and how you should jungle to use those leads and confidence to close games, click the video in the box in the bottom left.